to equal both of those. And if it doesn't, then it returns. And basically what this does is, you probably have had functions that have ended up with an error, divide by 0, an NA, numbers, those type of things. And you don't want that as your answer. You want something different. Well, that's what you can do here. You can decide on, if it errors out, what would you like displayed rather than the Microsoft default error. And that's what we'll do with the if error. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to open up that spreadsheet and I'll show you what we're going to do. Sales goal in order to receive the 20% commission that you see here. We need something, a function that can test and find out if it's true or not, and then we need a function that can give us the true and give us the false. Now you may notice I have an F4 and I have the name range here, because one of the things that we're going to find is, and if you're familiar with building functions and dragging them down and copying the formula down, let's say we built this formula and now I want to copy it down. Well, I originally started with this value here that I'm using in the formula, but when I move down to here, everything should move down one row. It uses what we call relative referencing, and you'll see that in just a minute, but I just want to give you kind of heads up of why I'm going to be naming or using the F4 function key. What happens is this is now going to be looking at taskers totals here in this formula, but these are going to shift down to here and down to here, and we need to stop that. So some of you figured out you could do it this way. If you don't really understand this, you just put the 1850 in all the formulas. Not a good idea. You should not be putting these values in your formula. You should be referencing the cell location and locking it down, making it absolute, and that's exactly what these two options do, is they lock the cell down so that it never moves when you copy the formula to the right or down or whatever direction you're going to go in. I want to show you how to do this, and the F4 will do while we're building the formula, but I want to talk about naming this cell right here. And I want to use it in the formula that we're about to build. So the way it works is you click on the cell or the range of cells, in this case it's just one, and then what we need to do is come up to the Formulas tab. Now under the Formulas tab, notice the Define Names group. And if you need more help or you'd like to review more information on this, just check out the video library. We have a lot more on this if you need to name ranges or a range of cells. You would go to the Define Name, and under the Define Name it will open up this box. This is where you can name this location, because right now this location is named J2 because that's its location in the spreadsheet, but you can change it and make it a unique name for navigation purposes or for formulas. This is really a great option for you. Now what it did is it looked above and it said, oh, you know what, I see a label up here. Why don't I go ahead and just use that as the name? And I'm fine with that. But one thing I want you to note here is commission rate is 2 words. But notice when it placed it in here in the name box, it put an underscore that combines the 2 words together. So in other words, when you name this, and you can name it whatever you want, well, pretty much whatever you want, you can't have spaces. So either put the 2 words together or an underscore to separate the 2 words, or at least looking like it's separated. Notice here that it's looking at the sheet called Basic If. That's the sheet tab down at the bottom. And it's the J2 cell, but it's got those weird little currency symbols right in front of the J and the 2, locking down both the column and row. So if I use this in a formula and I drag down thousands of rows, it does not matter. It will always reference J2. And the reason why we want to do it this way versus putting 20% in all the formulas is if somebody makes a change here, we want to make sure it reflects correctly in the formula. Always use the cell address, not the value that's in there when you're building formulas. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and build the if that will look and test to see if this is true or false, any of these numbers against the sales goal. All you got to do is come up to the FX button, and this will open up the Insert Function dialog box. Great option here. Now, I've had several of these